So tonight we're going to be basically talking about the gut, and since it's kind of an intimate group, you guys can ask questions, and maybe we can really pinpoint what information you need. But I basically want to kind of go over what's going on with the health in our country and how much our digestive system is involved in it. So it's actually it's 1/3 of the equation. So as we go through this, you'll get the idea how important it is to get it healthy, what's actually happened to it along the way, and then some really strategic steps that we can do in order to get it back. So there's a saying out there, fix the cell to get well, but it's really the gut is a huge part of that. So the gut is one of the reasons we got sick in the first place. So I'm going to just go through a couple of slides here just to get things rolling. So this is maybe people or you felt any one of these symptoms along the way. It's just basically general malaise. So, in the United States, now I've heard that, I thought it was 50%, but now they say we take 70% of the medications made in the world. The United States does, and we're still rated 50th in the world for health. So there's 49 countries healthier than us, but we're just taking all of the medication. And if that were to be the right solution, then we'd be 1 or 2 in the world, right? So that's not the answer, and I think you guys understand that, because you're both under chiropractic care and you understand that the very cool part about our bodies is it can heal itself. We just need to take away the interference, the things that are poisoning it or stopping it from communicating, so that it can do that. So one of the main things that messes up our gut are heavy metals. And there's really 3 toxins that are predominantly affecting our digestive system. They get introduced into our body by many different ways, and then if our body can't eliminate them, they make us sick. Believe it or not, the biggest source of lead in our bodies comes from our mother through utero. 4 generations, they say, of lead and mercury get passed down through the blood of mom to us, and then from our mom's mom's mom. So let's say your grandmother worked in World War II or something like that in the steel mill or making tanks, and she was exposed to some heavy metals during that time. And then she got pregnant with you, and some of those toxins got put down into your bloodstream. So you weren't born perfect. I mean, you were, but you still have these toxins. Your story is going to be different than your story, and whatever we're exposed to in our lifetime gets piled on top of those toxins that are already there, and that's going to be the tipping point to where we get sick. So some of the bad ones, of course, well, they're all bad, but lead is one of the biggest toxins. The 3 main initial symptoms with lead poisoning is anxiety, depression, and memory loss. So how many people do we know go to the doctor because of anxiety? And sure, it may be the environment, and it may be school or our peers or our family, but does anybody ever get checked to see if there's an underlying cause that could be bringing on that heavy metal, that toxicity, which is coming out in those symptoms? Usually not. They look at you, they find out what your symptoms are, and prescribe some kind of medication. And we know there's a lot of medications for anxiety and that stuff out there right now. Mercury is another big one, of course, from our fillings and from playing with it. I'm the only one here that probably was old enough to play with it when I was a kid, break thermometers and play with it and go down to the 5 and dime store and buy the little toys filled with mercury. I know, and I had a test tube full of mercury, and when I got bored, I'd play with it, and no wonder I had dyslexia and I had terrible time reading as a child. I could not read. I was so bad that I made a C backwards in 1st grade, and my 1st grade teacher just threw me into special ed. But what really got me was that in my 3rd grade reading class, there was a blind fellow named John who could read faster Braille than I could read with my eyes during circle reading time. That was pretty devastating as a kid, and I had made up my mind when I was young. My grandma was born in 1892, so she was already old when I was born. And I remember being about 4 or 5 years old, my mom saying, "Come out, quit watching TV with Grandma and come brush your teeth." I go, "I don't want to brush my teeth." "Come on, Grandma, come on, let's do it." And Grandma would go, "Here's how I do it." Put her teeth in a glass of water. I swear to God. And I thought, I would much rather just put my teeth in a glass of water. Grandma's got it licked, so I'm not going to brush my teeth. So, you know, I didn't ever tell anybody. And then I would eat sugar because I'm going, I'm going to get this together. Next thing I know, I had mercury in almost all of my teeth. You know, the silver fillings. That did not help my my ability to read or understand. So, mercury is something that we get again, and it come down from my mother's fillings or wherever she's exposed. So, this is the problem with this is it gets in our digestive system. Heavy metals, mercury, lead, and such get in our kidney and our liver. Our liver is part of our digestive system. So if our liver is deadened because of these bad heavy metals, it's not going to work right, which means anything downstream won't work right. So we have, you know, here's our liver. Here's a cell. We'll talk about a cell a little bit. But here's the liver, and here's the blood that comes from the brain and from the cells carrying bad particles into the liver to be filtered. Then the junk goes out the disposal and the good blood comes back up, healthy blood, and it keeps feeding our brain. And it's like washing the brain and the cells with good blood, taking the toxins away to get into our liver. The liver, one of its 500 known functions is to filter the blood, and all those bad particles go into our intestines and out. Okay, so heavy metals has a huge affinity for the liver cells and the kidney cells. The kidney, we could say the same thing about, you know, urine and the kidneys. So I just wanted to touch on that because we're going to look at what could go wrong before we figure out how to fix it. So we live in a toxic environment. You know, there's many different stressors, physical, chemical, and mental. We're talking about chemical tonight. And all of these play a role in our body's ability to survive. So we know we get an overload of these things, and it can actually, what it does is it builds up in our body, and then the big problem is it turns on the bad genes. It affects our DNA. It's, you know, we could get by with bad guts and, you know, not going to the bathroom the way we're supposed to and feeling uncomfortable and all that. But when it starts to mess with our DNA, we're in trouble. So the toxins that don't get out of our body ultimately affect our DNA and the way they are expressed, and that's when bad diseases get expressed. So we're going to touch on that in just a little bit more in a few minutes. Some of the toxins we get are from the food. Table, and we very rarely eat anything out of cans. I could say almost never, you know. So, and by being aware of the fact that there's so many toxins in our body, when we eat that stuff, where does it have to go to get out of our body? Through the intestines. And if it's plugging up our holes or damaging the cell wall, it's going to make us sick.
Don't they, just like over at Whole Foods, don't they, their cans, aren't they organically produced? Or
yeah, you know what's really interesting? Don't be, you know, you just remember what one of our presidents had said was trust but verify. I have one of our patients, actually,
that was Theodore Roosevelt.
Was it? Okay. One of our patients, his wife is a patient. We're trying to get him to be a patient. He sprays pesticides and herbicides for a living for 30 years. He is so incredibly unhealthy. But he told us at one of the meetings, I actually think he came to that meeting in Severinos. Yeah. He came by afterwards and says, "You won't believe what we're spraying on the organic farms. It doesn't, they're getting it, that's getting by as organic." So, you know.
So that's my question to you. How can you trust.
Yeah.
Because I've read that before.
Yeah.
Just because it says organic, it may not necessarily be.
Yeah, and here's an example of the largest health food store in this area. I won't mention its name. If you go get their vegetables, it says California Fresh on it, California Organic. If you look in the back, it says product of China. So maybe it is organic, but when you go 5 or 6 layers deep to find out who's testing it, you never know. So that's why I say if you buy organic local food and you try to eat everything organic, you never know, but do the best you can. Regardless of that, if we're going to minimize the toxins, our next job is to clean up the damage done. But if we try to clean up the damage done and don't stop the inflow of new stuff, that's another thing that they said, is doing the same thing and expecting different result. Now that's Einstein.
Yes.
So here's a case in point, and I might have shown you this before, but these were waffles that I got. I was visiting my sister, and she was sleeping, and I go, I'm going to eat some of her waffles. Optimum organic waffles, and I'm feeling really good about myself. I start reading the side, it says, no synthetic pesticides, no synthetic herbicides, preservatives, additives, no genetically engineered grain. Going, yeah, I'm just doing right. I'm shopping goods, eating my sister's food good, no irradiation. But what really got me was the line, no sewage sludge on fields. I went, what? And that's right there, no sewage sludge on fields. So why would they put that on there, right? So if I back up just a few slides here, biosolids as fertilizers. Dried sewage sludge contains human biliary excrement and contents of wastewater that has mercury, cadmium, uranium, and lead in it. And so
they use that as their fertilizer?
They are putting it on our fields, except for this company who says it. But you know what? Since this came out, if you go buy these waffles right now, you are not going to see that line on there anymore. I went and looked at some. I found them at, Staff of Life or one of these places, and I went, I wonder if that's still on there. Nope. So somehow, I don't know what made them decide to take that label off there. Some pressure from somebody maybe, I don't know, but it's gone. So that's why I say, we just try to stay away from anything packaged. That's our better bet, Not everybody can do that. This is one of my favorite stores, but all of these oils, all of these pressed oils are damaging your cells. The safflower oil, the sunflower oil, the canola oil, all of this stuff is terrible for you, because if it does get into your cells, it damages the cell wall.
So what oils, this is my biggest question, because the one oil I know everyone says is olive oil, and I have a major issue. I have a childhood trauma with olive oil, and I detest the taste. So whether that's psychological, I don't know, but I cannot stand.
I guess there's no place for you. You're done.
So what oils?
So coconut oil is really good.
And I've heard both good and bad.
About coconut oil?
Yeah. In little bits, it's great. Don't overdo it.
Well, so here's the issue. There's 3 different components to coconut oil. 2 of them are liquid. The third one is the one that makes it solid. That's called lauric acid. And then if you buy some stuff called medium chain triglyceride, MTC oil, that they've taken out the bad part of it. But you can have, unless your cholesterol is
Well, most
terrible.
oils I found are in this solid kind of. I have not seen any liquid.
Well, avocado oil is going to be liquid. Hemp oil is good.
I was referring to coconut.
Yeah. No, you can find it at the health food store. It's just called MTC oil. Medium chain triglyceride, MCT oil. And MCT. So, if you have an issue with cholesterol, if it's high, you might want to stay away from the regular coconut oil. If your cholesterol is not so bad, you're fine with it. Okay? And we can talk about that individually if you have some blood tests for us to look at. So, what they used canola oil for back in World War II, right?
For the machinery?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to put that in your body? Well, the tanks don't need it anymore. Why don't you just drink a gallon and get everything working well, right?
But they say, they say trans fats, and when you look at the back of the thing, it all says 0.
Right.
So are they being deceptive or what?
Well, probably they're being deceptive because it turns rancid and it damages your cells.
I know what but how do you know that when they say 0 trans fats?
Yeah, I don't know that I can tell you for sure on that, but I can tell you we know what the good oils are, the correct omega-6s that are going to help your body get healthy. So I can take a look at that because I don't know. We were just talking before you got here about a friend of ours that knows a lot, and we were saying, hey, the first minute I think I know everything, I'm done, right? So there's always room to roam with the mind. So here's something that's very interesting. When you go do the women's products, the things that they put on their face, the FDA does not regulate anything put on your body. Creams put on your body, they don't care what's in it. It's not regulated, but we know that it absorbs in. So you want to be careful. This is a Revlon product that says, warning, may contain titanium. I have one patient, her titanium levels are so high, and she's having a major, major health issue. And, who knows what kind of product she's taken in her life. But when you do that over a lifetime, it can build up and get stuck in the organs. So, but the cool thing is, and here's laundry detergents, we think we're fine with them. It says keep out of reach of children, the enzymes are harmful in there. My point being, there's an app you can get on your phone called Think Dirty. Are you guys familiar with this app? So this is what it looks like. You just go Think Dirty, and you can go around to any store and you pick up a product with your Think Dirty app and you scan the bar, and it comes like this. It shows you everything that's in it. It rates it from 0 to 10, 10 being bad, 0 to 3, and it's all explained on the app. You can open the app, and it's all based on CDC and FDA reports on the products that are in the food. So this isn't a fly-by-night thing. It's very scientific. And so Colgate. By the way, I was going around my house. My wife was asleep, and I was trying to find something that came up above 3, and I found nothing. So that was pretty cool. I had to go next door to my friend's house and borrow her Colgate. And then Colgate number 10, triclosan, whatever the heck it is. But that's a 10. It's one of the highest toxic things that you can be putting in your mouth. Now the cool thing about it is it shows you what's in it. It also shows you some alternatives. So you put this on your app, and the cool thing is if that doesn't have Colgate in it yet, it says take a picture, scan the barcode, and put the name, and then they will add it to the app. I had on my app today, they said they had 10 more items added. So, it's pretty cool. So you can make sure you're not detoxifying yourself by just some of the products that you've been using for years, just test it out. So that's a pretty good little tip. We've talked about inflammation in the cells, and we're going to get to that a little bit more. So we've talked about the heavy metals now, and now molds. We know that molds are probably should be number 1 for toxicity. They're everywhere. They're under our cabinets. They sneak, these little guys. They sneak around everywhere. So the main thing you want to do is just make sure that you don't have any cold, dank areas in the house. If you do, see if you can dry them up. You can always get them tested to find out if they're dangerous molds or not. But I've had patients that were chronically ill, would not take care of the problem in a bathroom. And they kept coming in, and I said, look, until you take care of that problem in the bathroom, you're going to still be chronically ill. They finally moved out of the house, and then about 6-8 months later, their health got better. But it's like pouring water on a fire that's got fuel coming in constantly. You can't fix it if you don't change anything.
Now, let's say if you're exposed to molds, because I was teaching for a year at a school over in Gilroy, and the portable that I was in, they finally had to condemn it and move us to another room. But it was, and they condemned it because it was full of mold.
Yeah, wow.
And they couldn't do anything with it.
Right.
But I was in there for 6 months.
Yeah. You probably still got some exposure. I mean, it would be one thing would be really make sense to do everything you can to heal that, because the mold, we'll talk about what these things do in a minute. So unless you've done something to specifically get rid of it, it's kind of hanging in there. It's really hard to get rid of, but you can. Maybe we'll never get rid of it in our body, but we want to make sure that it never gets a foothold to cause too much damage, right? That they're putting they tore down
the old
calendars there. Yeah. They're going to put in another health food restaurant, I think, called what's it called? Olive Garden.
Yeah, that's.
So, but
yeah,
I think I think the reason they tore it down was because it was so full of mold. I mean, why did they? Maybe they just wanted a new model, but I'm thinking it sat there for 6 years empty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and then glyphosate, you all know what that is, right? You know what it's Roundup.
Roundup, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a bunch of charts taken to the Senate by Dr. Seneff. So right here, Dr. whatever her name is, Stephanie Seneff. She is works at MIT. Okay, so she's no schlep. And she did this study, there she is, Stephanie Seneff, World Congressional Hearing, June 14th, 2016. So you can look this stuff up. Here are the graphs of all these diseases going directly up with the use of glyphosate. Okay, every one of them. Urinary bladder cancer, intestinal infections, renal disorders, obesity. You know, we don't need to go through them all, but you can see that all of them are pretty much equal to glyphosate. So what's glyphosate doing to our body? What's it doing to our health? It's actually breaking apart the tight junctions in our body, in our digestive system, allowing bigger particles through than should go through. And I'll give you a demonstration of that in a minute. So it's one of the big ones. So here's glyphosate. It's basically being liberally sprayed over all of the inorganic grains in our country. I mean, I have some pictures. They're just going over with crop dusting this stuff. And now, remember when there were amber waves of grain? Now there's stubby stalks of wheat, because they've altered the grain. Back in 1970, the guy who won a Nobel Prize for 7xing the yield of grain, of wheat, by crossbreeding it before genetically engineering was really known. But what happened is they created so many different new glutens that a lot of our bodies has reaction to. It may not be blatantly allergic, but our body can't handle them. And now what they're doing is they're spraying, they've genetically engineered the grain to withstand the toxic glyphosate, so they could put more on it and kill everything but the grain. So it's actually, you know, now we know that actual DNA molecule has got into our own digestive bugs, our own microbiome, and they're producing our
well, what about the situation, I've heard especially with corn, the genetically engineered corn as opposed to farmer just growing. And they say the wind blows the genetic kernels into, so nothing is really genetically free.
Yeah, and you know, we won't go into what happened with the court cases about being able to claim that. That's a whole different subject. It's a shame. But anyway, so glyphosate is being literally sprayed. Case in point, this is on my way home. You may or may not know where this apple field is.
Yes, I know. I drive by it.
Yeah, we live very similar.
Yeah.
See all those fields? That's all glyphosate sprayed, or some kind of chemical. And glyphosate's in 700 different herbicides. So now that glyphosate gets into the roots, up into the apples, and they sell them for $5 a plant. I didn't put the name on there, but I figured most people who know the area know it's there. So I'd like to see us ban it in Santa Cruz County. You know, there was a court case that was won that California was the only state in the nation that was going to make glyphosate or Roundup put a Surgeon General warning, a black box warning on there saying glyphosate has been, however they say it, like cigarette smoking has been proven to cause cancer. and that was passed. But about 2 weeks ago, they put a stop to it. They've halted the decision to make glyphosate put that warning on there.
Oh, so that could explain it, because last week I saw 2 ads for Roundup, and I'm going,
yeah,
I haven't seen ads for Roundup in years.
I wonder why that decision was made. Ka-ching, ka-ching. I wonder what happened, because we know that the study's out. They just don't care to see it. Okay, so we just got to be aware. So basically, toxins build up in our body. We're exposed to them. We assimilate them through our digestive system. They're not getting out of our digestive system, our liver, and they're going into our brain. We retain them. At one point, that scale goes like this, and we become symptomatic. The more it goes like this, we get chronically ill, and then it can actually affect our mortality, because it's actually affecting our body. Because, the body has the power to heal itself. I cut myself and it heals. Somebody comes in with a disc that's bad, and we adjust them, and the body heals it. Chiropractic doesn't heal it, the body heals it. We just free up the nerves. We take the chemicals out of the body that are poisoning it, and guess what? The body regenerates. It's amazing. It blows me away. I love what we do here, Dr. Dawson and myself. So this is representative of 2 things. Number 1, when your digestive system is supposed to not have these big holes in it, it will hold all of the substances. But as it gets holes poked in it, and they're not healed correctly, this is like, let's say the food stuff is going through here and coming out the bottom, and we're absorbing the nutrients out of that to give us life. Well, when these holes get too big, then we have a problem. So it's like if I had a sieve, and I put my beans in the sieve, and I'm washing it, and I want everything to go except the beans. That's how your intestine works. So you get food that comes down through the stomach. I didn't draw the stomach here, that's what I was missing. But there's a stomach here somewhere. And so food comes down through our intestines, and it's absorbed into our body. Vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, amino acids, and we use those to make life. Now, what if I took a screwdriver and poked bigger holes in my sieve? And then I put my beans in there and poured the water through. Likely more bigger particles would come out, right? So when we damage our intestinal walls, the bigger particles are coming out. This product called Restore, I highly recommend. It's put together by Dr. Zach Bush. I know you guys can see this, but this shows microscopic